Hi everyone, today we'll learn how to set up a solar panel system with batteries to be fully self-sufficient in electricity. There are countless ways to create an autonomous solar system. With various brands, technologies and installation types, it can quickly become complicated to manage. In a few months, I'll likely install a system on my container house to be fully self-sufficient in electricity. The system I'll install will likely be too complex for many people, so I wanted to challenge myself to see, is it possible with a more user-friendly plug-and-play system that's easy to install? With this kind of system, could we manage to be 100% self-sufficient in electricity? In today's video, I decided to use the Bluetti system because they kindly sent me all this equipment. We have an inverter, the AC300 a B300 battery with 3 kWh storage and a 350W solar panel. The goal is to see if this simple system can make us 100% self-sufficient. And even if you're not interested in this system, don't worry. We're just gonna use it as an example to then think about the whole topic and see how you, on your end, can build your own autonomous system adapted to your desires, your needs, and your budget. The first question, and the most important one, is what is your consumption? Or what will your consumption be in your future home? For Linky Meter users, it's very simple. You take your phone, you install the HelloWatt app, and you'll be able to see your home's annual, monthly, and even daily consumption very precisely. This data is very valuable. For example, I can see that my girlfriend used exactly 65 kWh of electricity in June in her apartment. So it's a typical 41 square meter apartment where she has a dishwasher, a washing machine, electric cooktops, and all the modern comforts. We can also analyze this consumption in detail, and we see that 38% of her usage is related to household appliances, 23% to lighting, 22% to cooktops, and 16% to screens. These 65 kilowatts, we can see that they cost her 13.41, which is 0.2063 per kilowatt plus 11.93 for the Electricité de France subscription. All that for a total of 25.34. We also observe daily consumption varies between 1 and 3 kWh. Zooming in further, we can see consumption in 30-minute intervals. And this allows us to see that she uses most of her electricity from 7 p.m. onwards. So, when there's no sunlight, you'll need to use battery power. If you don't have a Linky Meter, it's okay. You can buy smart plugs that track your consumption. Plug them in where your devices connect to track their power use. It's really important to have this very precise data because knowing exactly how much you consume is essential to be 100% self-sufficient in electricity. Be careful, your consumption might differ between summer and winter. My girlfriend uses gas for both heating and her water heater. So normally, her consumption should be the same no matter the season. We can estimate that it might increase a little in winter because she'll use the lights a bit more or watch television a bit more. But overall, it will be pretty much the same. Unfortunately, if you want to heat with electricity, reaching full self-sufficiency will be extremely difficult because your electric heating, even a heat pump, wink wink, will still consume quite a lot of energy. When your panels will produce very little during this time of year. So, sorry to disappoint you, but 100% self-sufficiency with electric heating, forget about it. To be self-sufficient in electricity year-round, we have two options. The first is to buy a lot of solar panels and a lot of batteries to be able to produce what you need in winter, but massively overproduce in summer. Or the second option is to significantly reduce our needs in winter. Thank you. In winter, for example. A simple trick. You can turn off your fridge and use a low-tech fridge that you place outside your house, which is more than enough to keep your food fresh. You can also choose days when there isn't much sun to wash your dishes by hand instead of using the dishwasher, or even wash your clothes by hand if there's really not much sun. You can also use another low-tech tool called the Norwegian pot. Basically, the principle is simple. You boil your water on the stove, then for example, you put your rice in it. You take your pot and put it in an insulated box. This will allow the cooking to continue and your rice will be done in 20 minutes instead of 10, but without using any extra energy. So this is very interesting for significantly reducing the energy used by your stovetop. There are actually a whole bunch of low-tech solutions to reduce your energy consumption without sacrificing your quality of life. And I'll be presenting plenty of those in a documentary that should be released around September on the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Now that we have a pretty clear idea of our consumption, it's time to size our setup. For this example, let's keep using my girlfriend's apartment. First, because I have very precise data, so it will help me avoid making wild guesses. And besides, my girlfriend has a 41 square meter apartment with all the modern comforts. It represents the average person's consumption. Soline, you're an average person. Let's start with choosing the solar panels. I'm going to use a simulator set up by the European Commission to find out what my solar panels would produce. I start by indicating where I live because the site has pretty accurate data on the sunlight in my city. Next, I enter the power of the solar panels, let's say 1.6 kilo, which means 4 panels of 400 W each. I click on View Results and I get an estimate of my solar panels production month by month. The most important thing is that my panels produce enough energy in January and December so that I can be self-sufficient in electricity, even during the worst winter months. With 1,600 W of solar panels, I'll generate 70 kilowatt in December and 78 kilowatt in January. So theoretically, enough electricity to meet 100% of my needs during those 2 months. As I said earlier, you can clearly see it on the graph. To generate enough in winter, our system makes 3 times more than needed in summer, but we'll see that's not a big issue. Last point about solar panels is going to be the question of orientation. So in summer, the optimal orientation, it will be 35 degrees to catch the sun's high rays. In winter, it's closer to 60 degrees to catch the lower sun's rays. If you can change the orientation of your panels each season, that's the best. If not, with a standalone system, set them at 60 degrees to maximize winter solar input, since summer overproduction doesn't matter. With our solar panels in place, we now need batteries, essential for self-sufficiency. You have 2 main technologies: lead-acid batteries, also called gel batteries, and lithium batteries. Gel batteries are inexpensive but have lower capacities. They can't be discharged over 50% and last about 1,200 charge cycles. If you never go below 50%, lithium batteries are much more interesting in my opinion. They are certainly more expensive to buy, although the gap tends to be narrowing. But they can handle up to 80% discharge and they have a lifespan of about 5,000 charge cycles. If you don't go below 20%, for example, gel batteries cost about half as much as lithium batteries. Gel batteries cost 0.27 per kilowatt over their lifespan, while lithium batteries cost 0.10. So in reality, the lithium battery is actually 2.7 times cheaper than the gel battery. A new lithium battery technology is called lithium iron phosphate, short for lithium iron phosphate. These new batteries are more powerful, last longer, and are now metal-free, which is great for the environment. The Bluetti system, especially the Bluetti B300 battery, uses lithium iron phosphate. So it's going to be very interesting for our system, and you'll see that I also chose it because it's very simple to install. You have your battery, your inverter, you have a small cable that connects the two, and your system is ready. You have 6 235 outlets providing 3,000 W power with a 6,000 W peak. You have USB ports, USB-C ports, and you have wireless charging. So, sure, it might be small for a very large house, but for my girlfriend's door, it could totally do the job. The alternating current, 300 inverter supports up to 2,400 W of solar panels. Just plug in a cable, and then you can connect up to 2 or 3 solar panels in series. For my example, I'm using this solar panel, the photovoltaic 350, so it's a 350 W panel from Bluetti, but it works with any solar panel. Let's say I keep the battery and inverter, but swap this panel for 1,600 W of east-facing panels. Could this new system allow us to make my girlfriend's apartment energy independent? We saw it on Hello What. My girlfriend needs 2 kWh per day, so the 3 kW battery is more than enough. As for the solar panels, we have 1600 W. In summer, it's easy. In 90 minutes, she'll make enough for the rest of the day. And in winter, we saw it on the European Commission's website. It should usually produce enough to meet all its needs for the month. But we forgot one thing. In winter, there may be no sun for several days. Our battery lets us be self-sufficient for a day or two, but not much longer. It could be interesting and even essential if we want to be self-sufficient in winter, to increase our storage capacity to last at least 5, 6, or 7 days. Because yes, long winter weeks without sun do exist. My girlfriend likes luxury, so let's try to find her a system where she can be self-sufficient for 5 days without too many problems, without reducing her usage. Using 2 kWh daily for 5 days means we need 10 kWh of storage. Nothing could be simpler, as my inverter can take up to 4 B300 batteries totaling 12 kWh of storage. If I don't drop below 20%, we have 9.6 kWh of usable storage. Knowing that it's not the end of the world. If you reach 0% with your battery, it's to preserve the battery in the long run. We don't go below 20%. If you really need it, they're always there as a safety feature. But you must pay attention to the last point. Imagine having 5 days without sun, using all your battery energy. You have 1, 2, 3 days with sun, so that's fine, but then you go back to 5 days without sun. It's going to be very complicated since your batteries are empty. So that means our solar panel system needs to be able to recharge all those batteries in 2 or 3 days or even less. If possible, to allow us to always be self-sufficient actually. So it might be a good idea to increase our share and go from 1600 W to 2400 W. That way, we can be sure it will work. Now this is really luxury, it's for comfort, for luxury. If your budget is tight, you can do less, but let's go all out with luxury. Let's see how far we can push this. In summary, my girlfriend's autonomous system requires an alternating current, 300 inverter, 4 B300 batteries for 12 kW storage, 9.6 usable, and 6 solar panels at 400 W each, totaling 2400 W production. And now we're going to see how much this installation costs. Get your wallets ready. Here we go. The kit with the alternating current, 300 inverter, and the 4 B300 batteries costs 10,600. The Bluetti solar panels are very interesting for a mobile installation, but they're expensive. 750 for a 350 W panel, so for a fixed installation. I suggest choosing standard 400 W panels for 160 plus 140 for support. Let's say 300 per panel. With 6 panels, that would come to 1,800, and in total, our standalone solar system would cost us 12,400. And here we realize that total autonomy, meaning in all seasons of the year, is very, very expensive. If I only wanted to be autonomous for 6 to 8 months a year, excluding winter, my installation would have cost 2 to 3 times less. And we can look at the problem from the other side. With this setup, so the 2400 W of solar panels and all my batteries, I'm going to produce a lot, way too much electricity in the summer. That means 4 or 5 times more than what I actually need. And the problem is, since I'm not connected to the grid, I won't be able to sell it, so I won't be able to make my installation profitable. Alternatively, in the summer, I store. I keep 2/3 of my installation, which helps extend its lifespan. That will still boost its long-term profitability. To wrap up on price, let's do a profitability calculation. And let's see if this system, which will cost us 12,400 euros, is much too expensive compared to if we had stayed connected to Électricité de France. Or in the end, could it still be profitable over time? Currently, my girlfriend pays about 25 euros per month, so 300 euros per year for electricity, including 144 euros for the subscription. Electricity prices are expected to rise by about 3% annually in the coming years. In Excel, I raise my girlfriend's bill 3% each year, and I assume that the Électricité de France subscription will only go up by 1% per year to keep up with inflation. What I'm doing is a pretty cautious simulation. The price could increase much more with the multiple crises we'll have to face in the coming years. Even with this optimistic simulation, it would take 30 years for our 12,400 installation to pay off. As for the solar panels, they are guaranteed to still produce 80% of their capacity after 25 years of use. Knowing that the panels, as we said, won't be used for 6 months of the year, actually, my solar panels will last much longer. It's not unrealistic to think that they could last 40 to 50 years. For the batteries, we rely on the manufacturer's data showing 5,000 cycles at 80% discharge. This means I could deliver 5,000 times 9.6 kilowatt, totaling 48,000 kilowatt over the battery's life. Knowing that my girlfriend uses about 780 kilowatt per year equals 61 years of use. And that's if we assume that she's using the battery all the time. But in summer, for example, most of the time, the energy produced by the panels will go directly to power the house, and the batteries will be used much less. So there's a good chance my batteries aren't supposed to last 60 years, but they actually last 100. I'll never use up the number of cycles it can endure. It would be very optimistic of me to believe that these batteries could last that long. Maybe some things inside expire, I don't know, and I haven't found any info online. I asked ChatGPT and they didn't know either. But we can at least estimate they'll last 30 years. There are examples of batteries that can last 30 years. At least they will last long enough to be profitable. In theory, if we sum all this up and summarize, we'll have a system costing the same as 30 years of electricity, but it will last at least that long, maybe longer. After 30 years, you'll generate free energy. But why am I telling you all this? We're coming to the conclusion of this video. Why am I telling you this? Do I absolutely want to sell you batteries? Bluetti? No, I don't care. I don't get any commission on that, so buy whatever you want. The sponsor won't be happy, but that wasn't the goal of this video. What I wanted to show you is that really, even for someone who doesn't know anything at all about electricity or solar panels, who wants a plug-and-play system that's so easy a child could use it but costs more as a result? Even for them, being self-sufficient in electricity is worthwhile. Some of you might say 30 years to make my installation profitable is too long. And here I want to say yes, actually it depends on the reasons why you're doing it. If you just want to make money with solar, well, actually don't be self-sufficient. Be self-sufficient if you want for 7 to 8 months a year in the summer, and for the 4 winter months you connect to the grid. It will be more interesting economically. And by the way, for all those people who only want a solar installation that allows them to reduce their electricity bill, but not necessarily to be 100% self-sufficient, subscribe to this channel. A video on this topic is coming in 2 weeks. If your goal is making money, as I said, it's not always the best solution. On the other hand, if you're someone who is aware that we're probably going to face a collapse of our civilization, that we will very likely have power outages or electricity rationing, that we will have wars, civil wars and others that will threaten our electricity supply. So at that point, you don't really care if it's profitable in 20, 30 or 40 years. Your goal is complete electricity self-sufficiency, and this system achieves that without compromising comfort. Plus, I've built you an expensive system without sacrificing comfort. If you reduce your consumption, you can manage for much less money. But there you go. If you want to be self-sufficient, actually, in 30 years with a plug-and-play system, you're self-sufficient. It's profitable. So I find that really interesting. Solar panel and battery technologies are evolving very quickly. I'm following that very closely. And I have to admit that in a few years, there will be batteries and solar panels produced locally without rare earths in a much more environmentally friendly way. We'll also have more powerful, longer-lasting panels or batteries that will cost less. So the future looks very interesting. Even though I don't really like putting the fate of humanity in the hands of technology, it's mostly because of technology that we've destroyed our planet. We must be careful, but it's fascinating to see what we can create. Anyway, the best solution, and this will be the final word, is to reduce our consumption as much as possible. And then to look for the best way to produce what we really need. That was Julian Malara. Thanks for watching until the end. I hope you learned a lot. Debate, discuss in the comments, and correct me if I'm wrong. All right, let's continue and talk about solar energy. There will be more videos on the channel. See you very soon.